Brian Powell of I Run Far here with Kaytlyn Gerbin after her win at the 2020 Transgrancanaria. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah?
Yeah, a little tired, a little sore.
A little tired, but well rested after.
Yes, I did get a good night of sleep last night.
Very good. It seemed like a hard race from the beginning, or a challenging race. Were you kind of pushing early?
Yeah, I was, and I knew that part of it was that Asara and I forget her name.
Who else was that?
Wait, can you start this over? the Chinese girl. Which I can't pronounce her name.
Yeah, Fuzhou Xiang.
Fuzhou. Okay,
Yeah.
So Fuzhou and Asara were, and actually Audrey were setting the. I thought Audrey was up ahead of me.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
Kind of all four
Anyway,
of you were more or less.
They set a pretty killer pace from the beginning,
Yeah.
and I decided to hang a little bit behind them so I could just kind of keep them within reach. But I also was a little bit worried that maybe okay, this is definitely going out faster than I normally would start a race.
Yeah.
But I think it paid off because it helped to know that then I was only kind of a few minutes behind them at all the first few checkpoints.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a better position for me to be in than being kind of 20 minutes back to make a move on that later.
Even if that might be more physically comfortable,
Yeah.
Mentally it was assuring to know that you were.
Yeah, and I also, I was still kind of checking in with myself and knowing, I feel like this is a little bit fast, but one of my goals was to make sure I was kind of comfortably uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I get too comfortable, and so I was just making sure, I wasn't going to blow up, but that I felt like I was okay, it's a little painful, but I can do this.
And it wasn't stressful to be sort of in contact, but not with them?
No. Because at that point, I kind of had splits of what I was hoping to run for some of the major checkpoints, and I was right around those splits, and so I figured if they're up ahead of that, it's too early for me to move
And
on
you knew you
that
weren't
early.
being unreasonable with your own kind of estimates of time.
No, I mean, it's always I like to try to make a race plan and race the course and race a time, while also keeping an eye on the competition.
And that's
knowing
easier
where things
earlier
are.
in the race
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, it is. And it's such a long race, and there's so many different sections of it. How the first 30 miles, really, first 50K is you're running through a lot of towns, so there's a lot more a mix of technical stuff, but there's a lot more runnable stuff.
Okay.
And I know it's, some people have an easier time pushing really hard on that stuff, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be able to do the same thing when it gets to the really big climbs in the middle of the course, which that's what the part I was really looking forward to. And then still again, then, you can be doing really well on those big climbs, and then suddenly you get to a really hot 50K with mostly descending with also some punchy climbs in the end. So it's just there's kind of three really distinct portions of this course. So
And that middle one is yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That was my jam.
When did you, I assume you cut maybe Audrey first of those three heavy?
So I came into, I think I came into Art Nara ahead of Audrey, but I actually didn't see her. So I kind of had no idea what happened to my friend Sam, who was crewing me, said oh no, there's only one person ahead of you now. I was like, really? I never saw any. So I almost didn't believe it. I was like, I'm going to just pretend that there's still two people ahead of me. And then at that point, I knew it was just Asara ahead of me after, when I came into Tejada and stuff. And so then I knew I was only a couple minutes behind her kind of in the last while, and actually didn't get a glimpse of her until we get up to Roque Nublo. And it was right at the point where there's an out and back section, and she's just a few switchbacks that you go up right before you get to the out and back. And she glanced back and she saw that I was there, and I was actually trying to figure out I don't know if I want her to know that I'm right here yet, because at that point I hadn't seen her. I knew she was somewhere close. I didn't know if she knew that I was as close as I was, but I felt like I was a little bit of an awkward distance away from her at that point, where I thought she might finish the full out and back and go on before I even got up to that point. So I'm in that case, it's almost better for her to not know that I'm right here. But anyways, that's just how it goes. So then I ended up catching her after the out and back, and we actually ran together for a little while.
Did you?
So
and at that point, I mean, you're 80, 90 kilometers into the race. Do you say anything to one another?
Oh yeah,
or
we were chatting. And it was kind of I didn't know her before, so it's not we can say that we have a friendship, but I think we formed a friendship a little bit on the trail. When I caught, we passed each other and kind of gave encouraging glances at the out and back. And then as I caught her on the downhill, then she stepped aside to let me pass. I'm kind of like, no, vamos, let's go. And so then we ran together into Gagneron aid station. And actually, I think I was hoping that we would be able to run together for a while after that. I think she was too. But then we ended up getting into the aid station right as the marathon distance was starting. Oh. And so we hear all this noise and commotion. And we're like, oh, wow, this is really an exciting aid station. Mm-hmm. And then we get up there and we see thousands of marathon distance runners leaving the starting corral right as we're getting up there. And so we ended up losing each other. And it was kind of just mass chaos after that.
She said you were better at the chaos than she was.
Oh, maybe, I guess. Well, you just had to pass people. Yeah. I mean, it was the start of a race, and I was at the back of it, and so we both had to pass everyone. So
and it's tight trail and
super tight and technical, and it was a climb there, and so it's not like last year I had caught people in the shorter distance races, but everyone was a little bit more spaced out, so it's a lot easier to pass. And also I think they're more aware of another race distance that people are catching them from behind. And this time, because the race just started, everyone was bunched up. It was just kind of a cattle path going up, and
people didn't know that you were in it.
No. But luckily there were a few runners in the shorter distance that would see me coming when I would say, just ask to pass. And every once in a while, someone would be like, oh, she's in long distance. So then they would start shouting up ahead to people hey, lady coming in the longer distance with the pass.
So if they didn't know, they didn't know. But if somebody knew, people were being super.
People were super kind about it. And I definitely felt it feels I don't know. It's a weird feeling asking people to step out of your way to pass.
Apparently you were more assertive in that. Kind of made a separation in the race.
She did, when I finally did catch her, because she left that aid station before me, she had crew to help her there, and so I had to go in and find a drop bag, and there's kind of a little bit of chaos there, but so she left, and I actually thought at that point, oh crap, I might have just lost this race now, because I didn't know where she had, how far ahead of me she was at that point, but I had, worked to catch her, and then she set off ahead of me, and now we're in this, chaotic mess of thousands of people that we're trying to pass on a single track, and I just didn't, I thought maybe she had, who knows, really, so I'm I lost contact with her. It's going to be so hard to see where she is now, because there's so many people, I can't even find her. But then I did actually end up catching her, and then that way it was nice. For a while we ran together and kind of passed people, so then we could have two people passing at the same time, and I kind of continued doing that and could hear people right behind me, so I actually thought she was right behind me that whole time, and then got onto a little bit more open section where I could turn back, and I looked back and I didn't see her. But again, there's so many people that I figured she was kind of right there.
Was there any point at which you knew you had a little bit of?
No, I mean, I figured maybe I'd put a minute or something on her then, but I was still.
But Ayaguares or?
At Ayaguares, I knew that she didn't come into the aid while I was still there, so I knew I left at least before her there, but I didn't know how much time I had. And it's still at that section at Gagneron aid station where we were just talking about with the marathon distance, I mean, there's still 26. Basically, I tell myself it's a 50K from there. That's still a lot of race left. And so there's just so much that can happen. Even leaving Ayaguares, it's about a half marathon distance after that, and it's hot and it's super rocky. You're running through just this dried out riverbed for a while, and so there's still a lot of time people could make out there.
And I know a couple guys in the men's or the men in the overall race passed you in that last, or maybe 20K. Were you feeling all right, or was it just they were raced two of them were racing?
I actually had a really rough patch in the last from Ayaguares to the finish was a tough one for me.
Not catastrophic.
No, but I think I made some mistakes maybe with fueling and water and the heat and just the fact that I was pushing so hard earlier on. So I hit some low points and definitely had to slow down a little bit through there and was a little bit worried. But I was able to hang on. So a few people passed me, but again, it's hard. I didn't actually at that point. I didn't know that I was in 10th, and I kind of wish that I had, because that would have maybe given me a little bit of extra.
Because they weren't very far ahead of you.
No. And I noticed one guy I just kind of stop on the side of the trail for a second and a little bit of dry heaving action. And this guy passed me. I saw that he was in the long distance too. But at that point, he didn't say anything to me, and I didn't know that he was passing into 10th place. But that would have been really awesome. Yeah. But either way, I'm still really stoked about the day.
Yeah, and how did it feel to come across the line in first?
Just incredible. I've been really working hard for my training and planning and race prep and stuff for this race, and especially after running last year. And we talked about in my pre-race interview that I managed to pull a strong finish, but I actually had a pretty rough day, and I felt like my race yesterday was really what I came here for. I was able to, it wasn't a perfect race, but that's good. That means I have some things to improve on. But I think I had like my kind of day out there.
You weren't fighting through problems and issues the whole way.
No. I felt strong and controlled and able to really enjoy the course and the competition and stuff. So.
What do you have coming up next?
I've got a ski trip next week.
That's awesome.
Nice. I'm going to take a little bit of downtime from running for a bit. And then I'm going to do UTMB later in the summer. And kind of have to figure out what's happening in between now and then. I was hoping to do Ultra Trail Mount Fuji at the end of April. But I think travel right now is getting a little crazy. So I'll just have to kind of assess.
I think there's a lot of that. I talked to Fu Xiao, and might be that or might be Madeira for her.
Yep. So we'll see what happens. People are asking me a little bit about this before this race, and I just I need to get one race done, and then
that race is done. So
yeah.
But you're also the kind of person who seems like you could just have an adventure.
I am. Yeah, I'm doing. My plan for this year is to actually set some time aside for a proper mountaineering season. Yeah. So I'm going to take May and June off of racing, or that may change. But my plan right now is to take May and June kind of off of racing, so I can do some good mountaineering.
Anything you got your eyes set
on? I'm climbing Denali with some other girls in June, and then probably we'll do some fun stuff leading up to that. So
cool.
Yeah.
I was thinking of this last evening. Do you find see yourself at all as a role model for no? But I was thinking of it. I have 2 young nieces, and just be someone who's so strong and confident, and in physical strength too. It's not just
I mean, I would that's awesome. Actually, yesterday as I was leaving the finish area and walking back to the car, there was a little Spanish girl who was 8 years old, and her dad stopped me and asked if they could take a photo with me. And I was chatting with her a little bit. She was kind of shy, but then really excited. It's she likes running, and she's run some races, and she's really excited. So that was just such an awesome experience. And I think if I can help inspire other women to go and do hard things and put themselves out there, that's awesome.
And it doesn't have to be just running. It could be skiing and mountaineering.
I think there's definitely, in trail running, I think there are definitely some really positive changes with women participation in the sport and women's competition in the sport. And I think there are races that are starting to make strides towards making that I guess a better experience for women. And so one of the things that this race did, which was awesome, is they let the women start in the front. They brought all the women to the front of the race. And so I've never seen a starting corral empty ahead of me with just lined with photographers. It was such a cool experience. And I'm I didn't even know what that kind of feeling is like. So I think to get that is that's pretty cool. So I think changes like that are a really good thing. But then also, especially in mountaineering and outdoor sports in general, and anything in the mountains, there's a long ways to go, I think,
but even small things, it might seem like a token, but lining women up in front.
All of those small gestures make a big difference, and I think there are a lot of women who want to be doing that sort of thing, whether it's going on a backpacking trip or going and climbing some mountain or taking a step forward and being a little more competitive at a race or something. And I think a lot of times they just need someone else to grab their hand and pull them up into it. And so I'm hoping to do that with some friends. I have a few plans to do that and stuff this summer, but I think anyone can do it. So especially if people, I don't know, I have friends that are interested in this kind of thing, like invite them along.
So it's like on a personal basis.
Yeah.
It's not just
groups of friends. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I see guys out mountaineering, and I can almost guarantee they have a wife or a girlfriend or a friend or someone at home who would like to do it, but maybe isn't quite ready for that intense of a trip. And I would love to see more of those people getting invited along to
facilitating and
exactly.
bridging that gap.
Yep.
And it's not just women leading women. Us guys can do it too.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Nice. Awesome. Well, that's a good takeaway, Kaytlyn. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
All right. So, Kaytlyn, we finished up our interview, and then we were chatting, and I mentioned that I talked to my sister and whatnot about after the race that it's great to have role models like you in the sport. People of different strengths, literally and figuratively, and that I got a picture of you coming into Hayda, coming downstairs, and you're just strong, like physically. Like, what is it like being a strong woman in this sport?
Yeah, I mean, thank you for saying that, and I definitely think that women have lots of different body types, and that's natural, and it's really awesome, and it should be celebrated more. And I think, especially in running, I mean, there's been a lot of, I mean, this is something that people have been talking about. We were talking about this, like there have been role models of strong women, especially in ultra running, kind of over the last decade and longer. But there's definitely been kind of a resurgence of people talking about female athletes and struggles that especially female athletes go through. And I think it's really important that there's starting to be a more open dialogue about this. And I know even for myself, like I still, like, especially now, like after some big race like this, like I love my body. I really respect what my body can do. I know it's strong, and I know it can get through some really hard stuff. But I do still think like it's important for people to know, like even me, like especially when I was starting running, before I really had that confidence in like what I look like, I don't look like a lot of other fast runners, and especially since I didn't grow up as a runner. I never did college. I didn't run in high school, didn't run in college. And so sometimes standing on the starting line and looking over and just seeing what other body types are there, that's something that I definitely kind of had to intake and process for myself. And it's taken a while to get to the point now where I feel like I'm, really feel like, I respect my body for what it can do, not necessarily what it looks like. And I think everyone has their own personal relationship with that dialogue amongst themselves. But I do think it's really awesome that people are starting to talk about that a little bit more and respect that.
So when you were getting into the sport and stepping up to the starting line, was it confidence, or was it that you just didn't feel like you belonged there?
No, it definitely was more along the lines that I wasn't sure I felt I belonged, because it didn't feel like I looked the same way. And I mean, I think I've been fortunate that I've generally never really had a serious struggle with eating or nutrition or even like body image stuff. But I do think like it's still so easy to draw comparisons, especially with social media, and especially when you're photographed next to people and everyone looks different, and like that's awesome and that's good and cool. But it's just so easy to draw a comparison that is a very superficial based on how someone looks and how you look to someone. And of course, like we all always see what we want to see, or see what society pressures us to see. So it's really easy to see your flaws. And I think like, just learning to find a way to respect what your body can do for you is really important, but it's really hard.
So initially, in those first years you're coming to run, how did you move past that? Because I could have turned you away completely. You were saying earlier how you were drawing people in. How did you get past that step?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I mean, I think like finding ways to focus on the positives, again, thinking about like what your body can do for you, and like recognizing like, wow, I just went on a really hard 10-mile run. It does not matter what I look like. Like my body just did that. And I think like that's something that hopefully everyone can find a way to relate to and just celebrate like the strengths of things, whether it's running or like being on a beach. I mean, we're in a beautiful island with people in swimsuits everywhere. And I was saying to you too about this, like I was just in Costa Rica, and like the girls I'm with are awesome. So like I like don't want to like.
It's not critical of that.
No, it's not critical at all. But like the first day we got there, we're on the beach, like everyone wants to go to the beach, everyone puts their swimsuits on, and like I actually even now like had to do take a deep swallow for a little bit, like okay, no, like I am living, because they've got perfect beach bodies, and like, but okay, I'll say perfect in quotations because that's what we're talking about here, that's like, you know, just realizing like, look, I'm strong, I'm an athlete, I've got an athlete body, and I'm happy with that, and like I'm gonna just embrace that for what it is. But I think like that's definitely something that like, you know, even when you learn to love and respect and trust your body, I think it's still something that you have to kind of, at least for me, like I find I still have to remind myself that like this is like it doesn't come easy. And I think especially like you said with social media and photos and stuff of things, it's really easy to draw comparisons.
So how do we, you know, we can't, it's going to be very hard. We can't really eliminate that part of life right now. So how does a female runner or a runner, because we guys think about like,
oh yeah, no, it's not just females,
and it's not about eating disorders necessarily or body issues, but you can kind of feel like an imposter, or like I don't have the right body type, I should go do another sport. So where do we draw those positives? Is it finding that 10-mile run and feeling strong, or what?
I mean, I think there's a lot of little things that can be done that will just help. And I think opening the dialogue is a really good step towards that. Whether that's, you know, you and I talking about this right now and me admitting that, like, yes, I have compared myself to other people and that's hard. Or talking about it with your friends and you know, really encouraging people about their strengths and what things that they can accomplish, whether it's, you know, running or work, career, families, balancing stuff, right? There's so many different amazing things that we find ourselves able to do when put in that position. I think those kinds of things should be celebrated more. And I also think like it'd be great to start hearing more stories from women who aren't necessarily at the front of the pack, but who are balancing their work with raising 3 kids at home and still getting out training. And maybe they're not on the podium spot, but they had a really strong finish at a race. I think it'd be awesome to hear more stories about people like that, because I know there's a lot of women who are in that position, and the same with different body types too. I think the more we can start to showcase and celebrate strong women, then I think that's an awesome way to start setting example for people.
Thank you, Kaytlyn. I really appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.